Hi, and welcome back to our series on encouragement. This week's study is going to come from a lesson in James chapter 1. So if you will, if you have your Bibles and you'd like to follow along, please turn to James chapter 1. On Sunday evening, I got the chance to preach, and I preached on a topic that was one that I'd done before in the past, and it was on the lesson entitled, "What Will You Do with Jesus?" In Matthew, Jesus, when he is before Pilate, and Pilate is trying to figure out what he wants to do with Jesus and to appease the Jews, but also not to do what his wife had warned him about from her dreams not to do, was to take care of this man, Jesus. And yet he asked the Jews the question, "What shall I do with Jesus?" And that's a question we all have to ask ourselves. What will I do with Jesus? Well, in order to be a good encourager, we also have to be that type of active question asking type of people. So we need to ask ourselves several questions. And one of the questions is are we going to do something, or are we just going to hear about it? In James chapter 1, starting around verse 19, it says, "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Therefore, put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls." And here's the key part. "But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror, for he looks at himself and goes away and once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing." So the interesting thing about this verse, and one of the more beautiful things that I like about this verse, is the idea of a man who looks into a mirror. You see, this man, he looks into a mirror, he sees himself, he sees things that he needs to correct about himself, and then he goes away and doesn't do anything about it. I see a lot of people who may be like that on Sunday mornings. They look at themselves, they hear the lesson, they know what they're supposed to do about their life, they know how they need to correct it, but then they go home and they forget about it, and they've eaten their lunch, and the lesson that they just heard, the lesson that might have even convicted them just a little bit, doesn't even mean anything anymore. They've forgotten about it. The same thing kind of happens sometimes with ourselves and being encouragers. There's a lot of times that we've heard something, maybe you've heard something through these lessons, you want to be an encourager, you think, hey, I'm going to be an encourager, but then you get out in life and you just don't do anything. You forget about it. You get caught up in your own daily actions, your own daily deeds, and what you need to get done for you, and you don't do anything about it. You see, it's like that man who looked into the mirror, and maybe he saw some imperfections that he could correct. Maybe he needs to wash his face a little bit more. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is he saw things that he could fix, and he chose to forget about it. He didn't do anything. He could have acted. Now, a question I have for you this week is, are you going to be a forgetful hearer, or are you going to be one who doesn't forget because you do? You see, the one thing that I know about doing is that it does produce some form of remembrance. All the actions that I've thought about in the past, I can't remember half the plans I've made. Things I wanted to do, things that I've forgotten so much, but the things that I have done have created memories, and I will never forget those things. I hope that you've enjoyed this series on encouragement. This is going to be our last lesson, and next week we're going to start a new series about attitudes and things like that, possibly. I have several options in mind that I'd like to go through. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and please join us next Tuesday for our next lesson. Thank you.